Niños del Mundo. Welcome to Watch with Mother. This is our storybook. Are you sitting comfortably? Then I'll begin. Había una vez 250,000 years ago in the late Miocene. Or was it Pleistocene? You choose. There lived two Mexicans called Señor y Señora de Hueatlico. One day, Mrs. de H grunted, "Jesu Christo, I'm starving. I could eat a horse."
"Okay,"
grunted hubby, "the odd-toed ungulate."
"I'd prefer a mastodon chipolata,"
he chuckled. "But I haven't got anything to cook it on," she sighed. So our old man invented fire and knocked up a barbecue. Then Senora D.H. whined, "It's boring. We better start evolving. I want a bigger brain and some farinaceous grains to make a mastodon tortilla. I want the whole enchilada." So her hubby collected some knot from the jungle and built a corner shop where he sold nuts, berries, gourds, peppers, amaranth, and a short long time later, yeast and garlic, pooey, which he imported from some geezers in Gaza. Geezers in Giza. Then, hundreds of years after that, Mr. H imported turnips, onions, beans, peas, lentils and leeks from Mesopotamia and potatoes from Peru.
Still alive then, is he, Mr. H?
Well, figuratively speaking, yes he is.
Oh, pardon me for breathing.
Señor de Hueatlico's business was booming. He was often heard to shout as he fondled his avocados,
"Look at my Mexican legs, big aren't they, and chock full of vitamin E."
The Armenians and Guadalupians provided pineapples and peppers, and the Orientals and Italianos sent pasta, satsumas and Parmigiano Reggiani. Senor and Senor de H's senses were overwhelmed, and the Senorita found herself continually up the duff. Thank God the Persians provided pomegranate positories for pushing up your house, your father, which were as dependable as a Dutch cap. And a good job too, because Sparsmit gummy was not invented until the 1880s. And if you children don't know what Sparsmit gummy is, get a parent, guardian or carer to click onto a website that says "fun with rubber." I think I've given the game away, haven't I? Then, shock, horror. Not yet. Not yet.
Oh, sorry.
Then, shock, horror. In 1315 there was a blooming great famine and the underbellies began eating each other, which is a bit hard to swallow, I know. So in the 1400 times, some farmers invented a farming frenzy. If it could be farmed, they farmed it. Now, further from then and nearer to now, when the Brits were bashing the Bosch, everyone who didn't die was on rations of dried egg, sperm and spuds. Dried egg, spam and spuds. Do you know what? Maybe rationing could solve some of our food-related problems. Might be something to think about, you know, you parents, guardian and carers, whilst you're hoisting your child's fat arse into the chair of the burger bar, or whilst your own lardy butt is being levered through the door of the changing cubicle at the swimming pool. Chance would be a fine thing. Eventually, food was back on the menu. Green things were grown in gardens and people, including the underbellies, were much healthier. They bought small portions of this and little portions of that, and they ate proper meals on proper tables, and they all went shopping at Señor de Hueatlico's little corner shop.
What? I never said no.
And
how old is he now then? Señor de Hueatlico. Oh, I hope the Queen sent him a telegram.
And this is where our fairy tale turns into a horror story. Out of these cosy shadows crept the big nasty giants with their big ideas. Stop now. Stop. Alder, Asdi, Spotco, Gars, Moribe, Sainsbury, Specs and Marks, Waistco, Tedros, Ludgeon, Biddle, the Aesop, Coland and Summerfiddle. And so began the war between the big nasty giants and the little man. The BNGs butchered the butchers, buggered the bakers, flattened the fishmongers and bulldozed the greengrocers. And before you could say Mary Queen of Shops, the BNGs had squeezed the little man and shat on the shoppers. The underbellies, well, they didn't know their parson's arse from their elbow. And if you children don't know what a parson's arse looks like, you're one of the lucky ones. Sell cheap, chanted the BNGs. Buy cheap, shouted the underbellies. Sell shit, shouted the BNGs. Bollocks, shouted the little man. Bog off, bellowed the BNGs. And if you don't know what bog off means, children, it's an anacronym.
Acronym?
That's what I said.
No, you said bog off is an acronym.
And what is your point?
Buy one, get one free. Bog off is an acronym, not an acronym.
Bog off, shouted the BNGs, and the underbellies fell into a feeding frenzy. The more they got, the more they wanted. We need bigger cows, bigger swines, bigger birds, said the BNGs to their necromancers who created potions and grow bigger faster pills, and the animals growed so big and fast that their legs collapsed. More for less, bellowed the BNGs. More for less, echoed the underbellies. Porky pigs were packed into pens and chucky chicks were slammed in the slammer. Cattle were crammed into sheds up to their reticulums in poo, and before you could say antibiotics, the underbelly started dropping like flies.
E. coli,
said the farmers.
Buggering bugs are buggering beef.
And soon many of the beef eaters got very, very, very sick, until some of them even became dead. And if you don't know what E. coli is, children, you soon will. Food got cheaper, the BNGs got richer, whilst the underbellies who couldn't rub two string beans together were microwaving frozen flesh and chomping chips from their boxes of slop in front of the goggle box, and they got fatter and fatter and fatter. Knees became tables, and the ignorami believed that burgers grew on trees and chickens came from Kentucky. Then, before you could say, what the halal, pork became horse and horse became beef. The BNGs laughed all the way to the city banks, whilst 170,000 underbellies cried all the way to the food banks, whilst those ignoramies who could still afford it got fatter and fatter and fatter until they exploded. The BNGs gathered up their offal and made it into hydrogenated ready meals and sold them in their stores. Thus did the underbellies start eating each other again. Am I being a satirical satirist like Jonathan Swifty-Poos, or a portender of the future like George Orwelly-Poos? You choose. But I hear you ask, how did the BNGs get away with it? And it's a very good question, and one that deserves an answer, which we'll read about next time. But now it's bedtime, and unless you don't want me to, I'd like to read you another story. Would you? Sort you then.
Well, chronic case of tummy tantrums there.